We just went live.
Mike, is that a first recon parade from New Vegas in the background?
Since we're live, I'll that's my hat. That I
Oh, right on.
but the details don't exist anymore, so you have to find
Fair enough.
Alright. I forgot to make sure the chat was open. So, we'll see. My second screen is my Xbox right now.
What are you playing?
Nothing currently, but I just use it as my second screen. But that's part of the plan when I move is I'm going to make my setup a little bit better. Actually use my two screens on my PC, and then I have this other TV just sitting here doing nothing. So I'll use that for my Xbox.
See, I'm just hanging out in my office on my laptop, so any setup you have is probably better than mine.
Well, I don't know. I got my catch-all tray and then my AC right behind me.
You guys hear me okay?
Oh yeah. And I think I might have fixed the Discord audio. That's what I'm waiting to see. If anyone's in the chat wants to confirm.
Yeah, I was just checking Twitch. We got voices on Twitch. We're a little quiet, but it's alright.
Well, I figured out how to turn it up more.
Check YouTube. Got voices on YouTube.
Testing 1, 2. Well, I guess I'm right up to the next to the mic. I should be comfortable. Let's do a chat check. Spurduncle and Friends says Marky the Hero. Our boy has come home.
It's Marky.
YouTube chat test coming through. We got some choppy tremolo effects on the sound. Oh, that was so professional. I apologize. 100, 100. Let's go.
So what is today? Is this a chill stream?
Yeah, we're just gonna do chill stream.
So are we gonna punt the finale to at least next week?
Probably even later than that. Probably 2 weeks, because I'm gonna be moving in, and then it'll be 4th of July.
Oh man, I totally forgot 4th of July's coming up.
Yeah, and I only have Mondays off, so. But we could do, I guess, a nighttime stream. Ooh, Marky's at the garbage job. It's too bad, bro. Well, if we boost up Spurdunky and Friends, I can hire you, Marky. Probably won't be for a couple years. Okay, I guess the sound is like stuttering. Is that the case for you guys? Oh, is it because of my AC maybe? It's probably me. Let me see. If my hand is up, I'm muted. People in the chat, was it me? Oh, okay. Let me see. My mic is blasted. Garbage like it's bad, lol. It's not very nice.
It's coming in through.
I'm coming in through loud?
No, the AC is.
Oh. Well, that's too bad because I've been out in the sun and I'm not going to turn it off. Sorry. Wow, Marky's just shitting on us, dude. Well, come be my audio engineer, Marky. I put a noise gate on. Did that do anything? Selfish. Actually,
A little better.
let me ask my live audience real quick. You guys care if I turn this? Okay, the live audience said it was okay.
Live audience. This puts us on a clock.
We are at 5 minutes and 38 seconds. All right, Chad. How does that sound?
Oh, say something. Oh, yeah.
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Whisper Donkey. Whisper Donkey friends. This is Indie Game Devs podcast, I guess. We're back with Blondie Wales. It's been a long time since we talked to you, and you want to maybe catch us up with what you've been up to.
Well, you know, weekend's been pretty busy. Been working a lot on our upcoming project there, so been getting a lot of the research materials put together for the team, kind of getting them on board with some of the reference material that I put together for them, trying to help them understand the art direction that we're going for. Our graphic designer has been putting a lot of effort in. She's been killing it, working on the main menu splash art. So
That's cool.
mostly been doing a lot of those kind of talks with the team and directing them towards that kind of stuff. Our level designer's been working on one of the main hub areas for our upcoming project. So he's been rocking out on designing that for us.
That's cool. You said there's 5 people on your team?
Yeah, so there's myself, our level designer, our graphic designer, and then on the previous podcast there was Dakota, our modeler, and then we've got another one who's working with modeling, but mostly working animations. But we do have another person who might be coming on here soon.
Cool.
A lot of interested parties, but trying to be selective as to who I hire on.
And you're in Kansas or Oklahoma?
Kansas, yes.
Kansas. So when you started or are you guys officially like an LLC, or have you gone through the process of that? Okay.
Yeah, I went through the process of that, and you know, I figured it'd be a lot more complicated than it was, but honestly, you just do a little bit of paperwork. It's really not that complicated. I did more paperwork buying a car. But for indie developers out there, 100%, do not release a project without forming an LLC first. One of those things that if something happens as a result of your project or as a result of your product, say you forget to put in the strobing lights, epilepsy warning that you see at the beginning of every game ever, and somebody has an epileptic seizure while playing your game, if you're not an LLC, they can come to your personal assets.
Well, what if you advertise it as we want our game to give you a seizure? Then does it still... Can you get away with that?
So, but anyone can sue anyone
I don't
for any
think you
reason.
can.
Yeah, anyone can sue anybody. It's just whether you can.
It's whether if it holds weight or not.
How? Yeah.
But if somebody were to have a seizure, or somebody were to have some kind of issue because of your product,
Yeah.
and you're not an LLC, then they can come to your personal assets. That's limited liability is the whole, L and LLC.
What about an LBC? It's like crap. Just wait. Let me fix my brain for a second.
My brain, when you say LBC, immediately goes to Last Best Chance, Long Beach, California, or London Broadcasting Company. But
It's
I'm listening to a
it's
lot of Sublime today, so
yeah, it's Bradley on the microphone with Ross MG.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a joke. It was Sublime. That was the whole joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, man, it's early in my day. I
All
might
right.
be
And
sleeping
then
up already.
I wanted to update everyone about something cool. Not that anyone can see anything on the screen. But here's our itch.io page. itch.io slash North Forest. Here, yeah, it's not a dashboard. Yeah, it would be northforestgames.itch.io. And then if you're here, you'll see our projects, Cosmic Meatballa and North Forest Scenes. And North Forest Scenes right now is just one scene. We're calling it Westerhaven Rain and Thunder. So it's just like an ambient scene. Sorry. Oh man. And then Cosmic Meatball, which we had the current build, which just has audio changes in it. And I made the animation a little bit floppier. Keep clicking on the wrong thing. Let's see. Oh yeah. Hella flops. Show you a little bit of gameplay. How about that? This is a little mini game we made over the course of a couple streams, technically. Yeah, that was a big reason. Yeah, we switched from plastic to GitHub.
Yeah, GitHub, at least for me, GitHub's going to easy to use. Maybe there's something I'm missing about the setup or configuration of plastic.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I think it might have just been the way we set it up didn't like it.
Well, the weird thing for me was it was looking for files on a different hardware.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense at all. So it could have just been my plastic setup or your plastic setup, or we could have had it on different drive.
Yeah. I have a feeling it was because of the way I maybe set up my end.
Because the other game's working okay.
Yeah. Have you pulled changes from that one lately?
Not in the last week or so, but I've already got some ideas about it.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. What are you doing, dog? Okay. Guest appearance is Milo. Can't see him because it's just so dark. One white paw. You need to stop barking, dude. Mike,
Yeah.
For someone listening who hasn't made a studio and hasn't gone through that process, what do you think are like the most important things setting up?
The most important thing?
Yeah,
Business-wise or like technical?
both.
Yeah, Yeah, the business part, I'm kind of learning as I go, and I went through the process of setting up an LLC, like John was saying, and what that does is it protects your assets, um, and it's you know, let's say you've got an LLC with two names on it, and you create something becomes a problem, right? They can come after that LLC, and then all LLCs with only those two names on it. So if you've got, um, if you want to take a further step, like if you've got a lot of different projects, you can even have different people on different LLCs. Um, or I've even heard of like with real estate, if you have like a rental house, which I don't have any, but a lot of times they'll do like an LLC per house, per building, so that if something goes wrong, like even just a maintenance issue, then it's going to be like way outside of what you expected. Then you can just have that house goes bankrupt basically, and it doesn't affect your other projects that you have going.
Definitely good advice.
Yeah, and then
Compartmentalizing.
yeah, and if you look at how like Google does it, now we're not anywhere near where we need to be like where Google does, but they've got like a holding company at the top, and then they break everything out below that, so you can have your holding company just not do anything at all and only hold assets like intellectual property rights to everything. And then you lease those rights to your sub companies, your subsidiaries, and then they go and make the game if you want to spread it out even further. Now, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not like I said, I'm learning as I go, but I just cover a lot of ground, and that's kind of what I've found. Now, tech wise, you need to find something that you can that you're comfortable with, and if you're not comfortable with something, you need to find something that you're willing to put the time in to learn it. And if you're not to the point where you can um, it's okay to have like learning projects and things that are not with the company, um, but and then there are licenses that where you put it out as like this is as is, and um, no guarantee, no liability. um, but there's a few things you want to cover, like versioning is probably the main thing, that you need to have some kind of way to everyone can work on the same project, um, and depending on your uh, your code base, it can look very different. If you're dealing with 3D models and things, you might want to have some kind of asset pipeline to handle that kind of stuff. Um, the way I'm looking at it right now, we have kind of everything in one. Like each project has its own repo, but the way I'm looking at it is I want to break up some of our assets into um, kind of like their own buckets. Kind of break that out of the code to some extent. But I'm still working on the kind of the behind the scenes code stuff for that. And you want to have social media, right? You see time and time again, people are putting out good content, good, decent games. Um, Even in music, you can put out an amazing song, but if you're not, marketing it on whatever's popular, uh,
Yeah, I just want to
you
add real
can have.
quick. There's some great videos about video game marketing, particularly Chris Zukowski, I think is his name. I think he does some great presentations on marketing your game for Steam. And I think the top thing that gives you wish lists on Steam is getting your game in some kind of festival, which some festivals will charge you, and then some of them are only like 10-second clips. but it still gives you like those are the best numbers, literally.
Hmm.
And then there are some festivals that are free. Um, but maybe we could link if I can find that Discord, his Discord. They basically show all upcoming festivals that you can apply for.
Okay, cool. I haven't looked into festivals much. I'll have to look into that. Game jams is
They're
another
kind of
thing,
cool.
but everyone's kind of not very many people are just digging through all the games.
Yeah, there's this guy Math Chief. He's a YouTuber. He started a festival this year, I think, and he's really big on like helping like indie game developers. So maybe I'll try to find that link and put it in there as well. But yeah, marketing is really important. Go ahead. I'm gonna mute real quick.
You know,
Lost track of what
I'd
I was
say,
doing.
I'd say, on top of marketing, you know, going on with that and combining that with social media, reaching out to content creators, not just, doing your own social media marketing, but reaching out and getting your game in the hands of other YouTube creators, Twitch streamers, those kinds of people, you know, even if it's just a short thing, uh,
Mm-hmm.
30 seconds for 1,000 eyes is better than, 1,000 seconds for 30 eyes,
Mm.
so any way you can kind of slip the, slip the game over to somebody and have them take a look at it, it's gonna get a little bit of word of mouth started for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it that can help. And groups like Facebook groups or
Absolutely. There's
Reddit's a
so
little
many,
controversial right now, but
so many.
there's also
There's a lot of really awesome, Discords and Twitch communities, Reddits, if you're wanting to, wade through all that mess. But find find communities, get your name out there, put your work out there, start knocking on doors, as they used to say.
you want to get on other people's stages.
Yeah,
You get maximize the eyes. We're kind of doing it backwards. We're making our own stage and we're bringing people on, trying to build the stage and the game.
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, and a big part of that, at least from my point of view, is I I like the idea of having like this sort of tight knit community of game developers who can kind of all like help each other. And you know, like I think my end goal. I don't really care about having like a million subscribers, but just kind of like having like um, this sort of I don't I don't know what else to call it other than like a community where it's like oh hey check this out or like so and so could use some backup, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. I really like the idea of building this sort of tight knit community. It doesn't necessarily need to be like this, you multi-million.
Rising tides float all boats, right?
Yeah,
Help each other out. Everybody gets up.
exactly.
I think
Um,
that is. I think that speaks to a problem that I've seen a lot of indie developers run into. You mentioned how you don't want $1 million, all that kind of stuff. Uh,
I mean, I
I
would
see a
take
lot of
it.
indie developers. Well, of course, who wouldn't? Especially in today's day and age.
Wouldn't even go that far.
Oh man,
I just
wouldn't even go that far.
I just think it's not necessarily. I don't think the success of like what we're doing needs even that high of numbers. Basically, is my only point with that.
Well, therein lies the question: what defines success? I mean, personally, I think as long as I can keep the lights on and be happy doing what I'm doing, I'd consider that successful.
Exactly,
Uh,
and that's where I'm coming from.
yeah, and that's something that, I see a lot of indie developers out there who have a lot of ambition. They've got lofty goals. They've got, big dreams, but they haven't thought about the in-between steps to getting to those dreams. They've thought about, all right, well, I'm going to make this game and suddenly I'm going to be, 100 millionaire and I'm going to go buy a yacht. And it's like, all right, well, let's think about buying a rubber ducky for the bathtub before we start thinking about buying a yacht, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I
What
think
would you say? Oh,
the
go ahead.
purpose. For me, I think the purpose of wealth is like freedom, right? So, like whatever level of success you want is that's how much freedom you want, right? And
Exactly.
everyone needs to decide for themselves what enough looks like.
Yeah, and I would say for me, it's like I work more than full time, and I have to be away from home. And I just want to be able to work. Um, I mean, I would love to work from home. That would be ideal, but not necessarily. But just to work on something I actually really care about, and then um, being able to support my family. Whereas right now I work a day job and work way too long, and then trying to do game dev on the side.
Mike, you and I kind of talked about that a little bit before stream, where, our end goal is just to work on the projects we're passionate about and, you know, be happy with the work we're doing and be able to, you know, spend time with our families, work from home, do our kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so if you were able to, uh, if you guys had achieved your level of, success, your desired level of success, you were able to work on the projects you were wanting to and able to do it full time, making your own hours, working from home, spending time with your families and all, what would be your next step?
I'd probably still work way too much, but I'd probably like take weekends off. That'd be the step.
Yeah, it'd
Okay.
probably be the same for me as well. It's like I know I can kind of get stuck when I'm doing creative stuff and just like be, well, I can't stop now, you know.
Yeah, probably just like set hard rules, like a more balanced system. You know, set out like a balanced schedule that makes sense. You know, like for your health and everything. And if you can control your own schedule, then you can or you can be more efficient in how you're doing everything and taking care of yourself and your responsibilities. Uh, so I would take more time off, but it wouldn't actually be that much. But I would get some time off.
Be more like working, 4 12-hour days rather than working, you know,
Then
five
yeah,
tens.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right now I'm doing like 7 12, so I'm doing a lot, way too
All
much.
right.
But
No.
Real quick, chat. How does the audio sound now? Am I still way too loud? Or, I guess, compared to Mike and John.
I swear to God, I like have ADHD. I like literally think I do, and I would just never forget anything.
You guys go ahead and say something real quick.
Finding random things.
test, mic test.
Mic test.
You didn't do a
She
John
sells
test.
seashells down by the seashore.
Oh, does she? Okay.
Man.
Yeah, there's some background stuff, but
Yeah.
the ACs can't hear the AC.
Okay. I'll just go like that.
I don't know if we hit everything though, because there's a lot more that goes into a game than code and graphics and business, right?
Yeah.
There's game design, there's gameplay. You need to find a target audience. We need to build something that people actually want to buy and actually want to play. Um, you need to find that target audience and put your game in front of their eyeball so they know that you exist. It needs to be priced at a point where you can survive, you and your whatever, however big your dev team is. Um, but that people still want to buy it, right? And what else?
Yeah, in a lot of things depend on the type of game. Like if you're doing an RPG, you got to do every possible line of dialogue. If you're doing Snake, there's no dialogue.
Yeah, I'd say build games around your studio's strengths. That's what I'd say. If you're just a lot of times it's just like one guy writing code, or just maybe one guy, he's good at, or woman that's good at like art but not good at code. Well, you could use something like Game Maker if you want to focus on art and have an engine that you can publish. Obviously there's limitations with not doing the code yourself, or not being able to dig into the system you're using, but you can still put out a game. You can still put out something that um, that plays to your strengths, right? Or if you look at the stereotypical lone coder, right? There's they're outliers, but there's some roguelikes, or there's like Dwarf Fortress. There's a lot of um, successes, even like text-based games, or you can stick to pixel art, or you can if you have to happen to have funding, you can partner with someone that, or hire someone that can do the art, or hire the things that you're not good at. um, so there's a lot of ways to do it and a lot of paths to take.
I find in my game development journey that the actual breakdown in terms of making games ends up being about 75% research and about 25% of active development. Do you guys find yourselves in a similar kind of situation, like in terms of researching, market research and reading documentation of how things have been done, how they could be done, how to do them better, that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
versus actual sitting down, nose to the grind,
Mm.
writing out code?
Yeah, I'd say I kind of overdid the research. For a while, I was probably like 95% research. But now that I've spent way too long doing that, now I'm doing more. Now I'm more like 75% nose to the grindstone. But then there's still all the little, I'm trying to build my Twitter. I'm trying to keep other things active. So it's kind of
I gotta kill a spider real fast.
okay. There's still a lot of other things to do. Um, and one approach you can take is like start selling like as soon as you have anything to show, like whether it's a screenshot or anything. Now, obviously, depending on how ambitious it is. If you look at like No Man's Sky, maybe they announced it a little too early. Um, but you also don't want to just wait until you're in full beta to say anything or tell anyone about it, right?
Yeah.
You want to get some building, some kind of community, whether it's a Discord or a Twitter or something that you're actually going to remember to use. Um, and have like one main source where, okay, here's where people can get the latest,
For sure, for sure. So that kind of brings up an interesting point. You say, you don't want to wait till you're in full beta to get eyes on it, um, but you also don't want to announce too early. So, say you're working on a first-person shooter game, uh, some kind of like arena shooter. Take
Mm-hmm.
Quake for example.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Obviously, you want to have something playable to show. You know, uh,
Well,
not necessarily playable, but
maybe.
something that's getting to that point, something that at least has the ability to demonstrate the general ideas of your game.
Yeah,
You don't want to just be rocking with, you know, blocks.
yeah. I think.
If you're making a hyper realistic shooter or something, you don't want to be
Mhm.
working with, primitive geometry uh,
Yeah.
when you first start kind of doing the
Mm,
rounds and generating
mm.
hype and interest.
Yeah,
Um,
I think maybe I need to rephrase, like, because the problem with No Man's Sky probably wasn't that they said anything early. It was that the expectations were too big too early. So like I think it's probably fine, especially a small dev. Like if you just have something basic working, or like especially personal stories where people can connect to the person. Like one good example was this guy made a game where he got like footprints working in the snow. I don't remember what game it was, but he um, he posted that to Reddit, like, "Oh, I finally got this working," and that became a successful post, right? Even if it's not like, "Oh, look how great my game is," it's more like a way to make a personal connection.
yeah,
Um, but where No Man's Sky went wrong, I think, is they had a video at like a big public thing, and they were in with the
I think it was
AAA
at E3,
games,
wasn't it?
something like that. Yeah, and when
Yeah,
me looking at the video, I was like having some idea, not being too picky about graphics and things. Like I care more about mechanics. I was like, oh, that looks cool, looks exciting. But it was more about they promised more than they had ready to show off, and I think expectations just took off before they could actually, you know, get it done. And I think that's what the problem is with them, is just managing expectations.
yeah. I think when you drop a trailer, you should really heavily focus on what is currently actively working, like what's
Yeah,
already ironed out, and be like, and here's what we're hoping to do, but here's what we
yeah,
have.
yeah,
Don't
and
don't
keep in
focus on your
mind,
roadmap.
like it, whatever the game is in your head, like most projects are going to have to cut system, like entire systems, because you can start out, even like some of our games too. We've started out, oh, this is just going to be a quick little thing, and it's like, oh well, let's add this, let's add that, and let's add the other thing, and then before you know, it's a little quick game turned into a big game. Um, and when you start out with a big game, it, you can have the same problem. But
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and I will say,
oh,
uh, how Mike was saying earlier before I went and killed the spider, um, he kind of had the paralysis by analysis issue,
mhm.
but I kind of had the opposite problem where I went in without a plan and I was just like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this, and then we would kind of like be like, well, like we were gonna do this, so like why are we doing this? and
Yeah,
I feel like we what we've been trying to do is kind of take those opposite ends and you know
try
come
to
together.
bring everything back into one cohesive system.
Yeah,
That's, I think, what we're trying to do. At least that's what I'm trying to do with the code base. So I'm actually started writing some stuff in hacks. Um, Most people probably aren't familiar. It's this obscure language where you can write statically typed code in hacks, and then you can transpile it into other languages. So you can transpile hacks into C++ or JavaScript or Python, or most programming languages, but not, like it can't do Solidity, it can't do Rust, it can't do Go. Those would be good targets. Um, but it's kind of an older tool. I don't know if it will, if it, we'll see how where it goes. But for now, it meets my needs, because when I'm if I put my basic systems in there, then I can port it to C sharp or C++ and use it as a library. And then no matter what happens with the game engines that we're using, whether they just, maybe down the road, um, so there's some big problem, who knows what. Um, and one good use case of that, I know it's an old example, but Flash. A lot of people used to make Flash games, and then Flash was no longer supported because of security issues, and so now you've got all these old games that you can't, the browsers won't even run them anymore. Um, and so um, a lot of those studios used hacks and ported it to like HTML5 or whatever.
What does Godot
Or
use? Is it C++?
Godot uses there's GD script, but I think it's a C sharp. I think it uses C sharp, but when you compile it from source, you use these Python scripts, and I don't know what the base language is. I don't know if it's C++ or what.
I don't know. Maybe we should look into making our next mini game in Godot. What do you think?
I think I've been bringing up Godot for a long time.
Yeah, I've never even opened it up before.
It is, it's one of those things where it's it's a great engine and it's free and it's open source. Um, but it's kind of like using Linux versus Macs or Linux versus Windows. There's, it's an open source thing and they're still building it, right? Um, Now you can make a lot of great games with it. There's plenty of production games, and there's one company. One big difference with Godot is you can't. It's not easy to go to like consoles. Um, but there's at least one company that I heard of. I don't know how far they are now, where they're kind of acting as a publisher to help people get Godot games on console.
That's cool. We should figure out what that company is and put it in the description.
Yeah.
Um,
That's one thing I have not worked with at all is Godot. I have not tried it out. Need to look into it.
Yeah, it's kind of
Pretty much only messed around with Unity and Unreal.
same.
yeah.
A little bit with RPG Maker back in the day.
Yeah, it's C++. It's MIT license. It's one of those things where like I want to get around to messing with it, but I don't see it being our main platform. Um, but maybe it's good for 2D. Um, and I know some of their recent updates are using Vulkan shaders, so it looks pretty nice. It's not Unreal, but the latest builds do look pretty good. And in the past, I think we tried to use it before, and there was some issues with Blender, like trying to get Blender models to import.
Yeah, so when we were looking into it, I never actually opened it, I don't think.
Mhm.
But when I was looking into it at the time, we had a project that was going to use Blender files. And there was
Yeah.
some sort of issue with the. What's the word?
Like the importer.
Something like that. There was some sort of weird Blender issue or FBX issue.
Yeah. Well, I think that's been.
Yeah, I've
fixed.
heard that problem doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, and even back then, I think there was a fix for it, but it was not. It wasn't obvious when I was messing around. But it was more of a configuration and exporting your model in a very specific way. But now I think that process is smoother.
But yeah, specifically with like Spelunky and Friends, I don't know if we've said this, but our plan is to make like multiple like mini games in like different engines and stuff.
Yeah, so
So
Godot would be good for that, like a 2D game maybe.
exactly. So at some point, whether it's the next one or one down the line, um, yeah,
I think Flash games really speak to the importance of fun gameplay mechanics and fun gameplay loops rather than high production value. I mean, you think back to how many of those old Flash games are still so like fondly loved and remembered, and
Mm-hmm.
how they're still like so culturally relevant, even though Flash is. When did they stop support for Flash? Like 2014? It's been almost a decade.
It's been a
And
while, but for a while you could get away with like just enabling it and it would warn you.
Yeah,
Now the current way that there's a couple games that I've tried to play recently, I had to
yeah,
download a like a fork of a browser for a specific site and then go into the dev tools and like tell it to go to a different site, and then even then it won't run most of the
yeah.
games.
So you gotta
So
gotta run through a bunch of hoops to get them to halfway work and
yeah.
side loading stuff and all this other, you know, hoops you got to jump through. But it's like, I mean, you think back to all those Flash games and things like Mini Clip and all that, and the ones that are still around, thank God we still have them around. But uh, a lot of them just, it was this shared cultural thing that everyone was like, yeah, we played that at the on the computers at school in the computer lab, and it was so great. We played it all day,
Mhm.
every day. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And it became such a big part of so many of our lives that you wouldn't think they would have as big of an impact on a lot of folks as some of these
Mhm.
AAA games, but these are games that were made, you
Mhm.
know, shoestring budget would be a big budget to them kind of uh, indie, independent solo developers with Flash, but they focused on gameplay mechanics and, being
Mhm.
fun games first and foremost, and they're still
Yeah.
looked back on fondly and beloved.
Yeah, and I think maybe part of that, what influenced that was that you didn't buy them. You had to get people
Yeah.
playing it. People had to come back and watch the ad, or you didn't get paid. And so that's something to think about as far as um, you know, focusing on getting people to come back and actually play your game rather than okay, what are my metrics for next quarter, right? How can I squeeze X amount of dollars out of my audience by next quarter?
Yeah, some of those Stickman series were like you'd play it and then you'd be like, oh, I gotta go show my friend, and then you'd play it, and then the sequel would come out, and you're like, oh, we gotta play this.
Yeah.
With like those E-Bombs
Oh,
World, Newgrounds, and
oh man, did you see
Congregate.
Madness Combat 75 came out? You gotta go play it.
Or
Yeah.
wait, was E-Bombs World just videos actually? I don't remember. That might have
Well, it
just
was
been
weird.
videos, and I've always lumped it into the video game sites.
And the funny thing to me was that like the Flash player was never designed, or even the Flash Studio was never designed for that. A lot of the game, like when I was learning how to make a Flash game, you'd open like one. You could have more than one frame, but you might have like one keyframe for like your loading screen, and like one keyframe for your level, or some of them were just one keyframe and everything was handled with code. And then obviously your vector animations you could build it in the Flash Studio, but then they're just save files. But it was just funny to me how
What
it
about
wasn't even made for that.
the WebGL build for Unity? Have you guys messed with that at all?
The editor or
I
to like the
haven't.
export.
The export. So, um,
I
at one
haven't gotten
point I
around
was
to using
looking
it a
at,
whole lot yet.
yeah, like the idea is you could embed like a game using the WebGL build.
Oh yeah, and then there's I think there's more than one option for ads that you can embed in the game. That way, if people like grab it, put it on their site, it'll
Mm.
still show an ad when it goes through your affiliate account. So that'd be something to look at for one of these mini games. Maybe we
Yeah,
could look at Meatball,
yeah, we
or
could probably do it with all of them.
yeah, and then you
Tell
put
you
like a
what, I
thumbnail
am
on it or something.
I am always impressed by the ingenuity of some folks in that necessity breeds ingenuity, I guess. But I mean, you see some of the stuff that some of these indie developers put out, and it's incredible. I mean, have you guys seen some of these games people make in Microsoft Excel?
Yeah, yeah, I've seen some of them.
Yeah, like people have made like Minesweeper, they've made Yahtzee, uh they've made like a OG Zelda clone. They put Tetris in there.
Mhm.
Uh, there was a guy who did a whole flight simulator in Microsoft
Wow.
Excel with like wireframe graphics and everything.
Hey.
There was another guy who did like a roller coaster that you could ride
Mm-hmm.
with wireframe graphics in Excel. I'm like, dude, how? How do you go about putting all that together? How do you even think to do that? You just open up Excel one day and you're bored of doing reports at
Yeah.
work and you're like, yeah, I need a little
Yeah.
excitement in my life. I'm going to build a roller coaster.
Yeah. It probably started with because it's built with the macros. So
Yeah,
um,
it's crazy to think how people put stuff together like that.
yeah, I haven't spent much time with the macros just because I spent a lot of time in the like enterprise world, and a lot of the projects I have to work on are things like, well, this guy built this this thing with Microsoft, various Microsoft products and visuals, Visual Basic.
My mic was muted, but I was just saying I'm showing the flight simulator right now. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to do like ARG stuff with like these weird like obscure like mini games.
It kind of reminds me of like the OG Star Wars arcade game.
Mm-hmm.
The way I have my chords right now, I keep having to move back and forth these annoying ass chords on my left. But
Yeah, there was a game jam. I forget where it was, but this guy made a game where you play on the printer, so it's printing out the paper, and your car is on the paper. And as the paper's coming out of this like strip, like a receipt printer type of thing, you're steering the like a racing game.
That's
You
actually
guys heard
really
of that?
cool. I haven't heard of
Um,
that. No, that's actually really cool though.
I mean, it's. I mean, you wouldn't want to like actually play it much because you're wasting paper, but it was this game jam, and they were kind of like exploring the limits of like what a game even is or what you can make into a game.
Yeah, it seems very avant-garde.
well, here's an idea. What if you had physical based UI? So like mechanical parts on your screen. So like uh, you aim like with a physical thing that moves back and forth or something.
Oh man, I've been putting physical bits in my UI for over a decade. I mean, I think
I mean
everybody at
like
some
real
point
life
put
like
a little hash mark in their on their
oh
TV with a dry erase marker
yeah, I see
at
what you're
the
saying. Yeah.
center line. Yeah, man.
Dry erase,
How else are you gonna get good at no scoping?
yeah, dry erase sniper.
360 no scopes, interventions only. Like, we're doing this. Uh,
Yeah, I think I would just add some randomness to that.
Have you guys seen the guy who makes the giant rumble packs on his desk?
I've
So
seen one of them like shakes
it's
you.
like real life recoil, and then he did like when you're in the tank, he's got like a giant like motor. Uh,
that's awesome. The trucking simulator games where they'll like recreate the inside of a big rig, for their PC setup, and they'll have like 6 monitors all lined up,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and just really get into it. Like they'll have the full-on stick shift and everything, and I'm like, man, that is that is intense. I can't even imagine, getting that into a game. Like,
All right, anyone in the chat want to chime in? I see some lurkers in Twitch and YouTube. Let's see, do we have any game developers watching? Let's see. I'll start calling out your names. I can see you.
I see you.
Bueller.
No, I won't do that. But
Bueller.
Amen.
I'm just curious, like random people popping in.
Here's somebody. Oh, that's you.
Yeah, I did a little doggy emoji.
I found that paper printer name. I put in the Discord chat.
Okay, yeah, I can show that off. Easy peasy. Oh, and this chat.
I don't know if this is the guy I was thinking of. It's Game Jam, but
That brown chair and that gray couch?
Yeah.
But did this couch and this chair match?
Oh, I got pop-up ads.
They're not horrible.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's just a picture. Yeah.
And then find the right one of the other one.
Well, I was looking at
Visual search. That's not what I meant to do.
that.
I think people get it.
They are if you buy one of the like power ones. They're like
Oh, shibbity doo da da doo da doo. So, what was the very first video game project you made, John? Or like started, I should say.
The very first video game project I ever started or worked on, um, I think I mentioned it in the last episode. Um, I My first semester of college, I took a C++ coding class, and our final was to do a text-based RPG like the old Dungeons and Dragons game from I think like 1978. Um, so in C++, I made this terribly made, completely unoptimized, running it in console text-based RPG based on a short story I'd written in grade school because I was like, I gotta find a theme for this. Screw it. Uh, but it ended up being like 9,000 lines, and it could have been like 1,000. Like that's how terribly optimized it was. But you'd go through and print out. Uh, it would print out uh, the graphics as text. Uh, like back in the days, and you'd go around this little kingdom picking up items to unlock doors, and then you'd go and fight this goblin monster and save the kingdom. And that was 3 days of chugging Red Bull and reading through the entire book because I did not pay attention the entire semester to get that done. But I look back on it now and I'm like, man, that was a terrible project, but I'm glad I did it.
yeah,
I'm
that's how
sad
you
that I
learn.
don't have. I'm sad I don't have the finished version of that because I would probably actually put that on my portfolio today, even though it's complete and utter garbage in comparison to what I'm working on currently. It's one of those things that it shows your progress in learning. It shows your journey. Um, I always had an issue with that actually. I'd get done with a semester and I'd be like, oh man, I'm looking back at the stuff I worked on throughout the semester, and now I know so much more that I hate what I've learned. I've hate what I've worked on because it doesn't match up to what I know now, and I just want to get
Mhm.
rid of it and never look at it again. And so I had an issue where I'd go through and I'd delete a bunch of stuff just because I'd be like, oh, it's not up to my current standards. And I
Yeah.
really regret doing that.
Yeah, I think
There's a
that's
lot of stuff that
that's
I'd
a
like to
pretty
have back.
common thing with game devs. I think because like I have a bunch of missing projects that I know if I just went back and opened them, just a little polish, and I could have put it out and been like, hey, I made this thing. Like, you know,
Absolutely.
especially now, like with what we're doing with Drunk Game Friends, like it would have been perfect to show off and be like, look at all the things I did. What was the first game
Absolutely.
you made, Mike, or like started?
The very first, it was something in Dark Basic, like this really old programming language. And it was 3D, but it was basic. And that project is long gone.
Was it the
Um,
helicopter one that you showed me, or was that a 2D
that
game?
that was a Flash game, the helicopter one.
Oh, okay.
You play as, and I have that somewhere. So I gotta find it. But you play as this helicopter, and no, you play as a UFO,
Oh yeah, UFO, and then the helicopters are coming
and
after you.
yeah, the helicopters are trying to shoot you down. But the goal of the game is to collect little. So it's just like a side-scrolling shooter. The goal is to collect these these pickups to repair your ship, so you can leave. So there's no boss. Like you don't have to shoot the helicopters. And I actually made it like because I was just kind of messing around with the concept of um, like you don't even get points for killing the helicopters. You only get points for picking up the pickups. But it was just a weird little side scroller. I don't know that it's worth polishing. Maybe the concept we could revisit, but even the code, I don't think we could. I don't think I could reuse that code. Um, and I also one of the other early ones was a text-based. Um, it was written in Python, and it was a text-based adventure game, and it was like a gladiator fight. So I narrowed it down to just combat, and you had a whole bunch of skills, um, and it was just like a text-based thing. But I don't have. I might have some of this stuff somewhere, but the last time I looked, I couldn't find it. So
Come
most
to
of
think
it's
of it,
lost.
I think actually prior to that text-based RPG that I did, I think the first functional, what you'd call it, game I made was a simple hangman program in C++.
Oh, okay.
But there was only like 8 words in the word bank,
Yeah.
and
Well,
half of them were stupid, like Godzilla
oh,
or King
good luck.
Kong.
Good luck.
It's just like, yeah, figure it out. It's Godzilla and King Kong. You know, didn't even have like a thing for like categories or anything.
Yeah. Well, that's how you learn. You start with Hello World and you build a little complex, a little more.
Yeah.
And one thing I've been trying to like some of the games we want to make are a little bit more ambitious. And so I've been trying to think of ways to break parts of the large game down into smaller games
Dimensions are the whole thing.
so that we can work towards larger projects
Yeah.
and reuse stuff that we, at least to some extent, like not complete copy paste, but because each game has its own flavor and its own. You want the mechanics to have that feel like unique to that game.
Yeah, I mean, recycle, repurpose, reuse. That's the motto of game development. Not just indie game development, but AAA development. I mean,
Well, yeah. Once you get
if you got
solid
something that
systems going,
works, you know,
why not use
that's
them?
something that works. Why not use it?
And that's what a lot of big games do: is they make a system that works, and then they expand on it with new games.
I mean, Madden's been doing it for 25 years.
Yeah, that's one of those games.
Kind of hard to improve on football.
Yeah, that's one of those games where it should just be one game that they just update the game instead of releasing a new game
Yeah,
every year.
there's your evergreen. There's your evergreen
Exactly.
platform. Okay.
So I think I'm going to call this episode Foundations Part 2. I don't know if you saw, I called the other one Foundations. This feels like an extension of the last episode we did. I'm trying to think of what my first game is. I honestly don't know. Depends on what you mean.
Was it the meatball game? Or was
Yeah,
it
I think
something else?
I think the original meatball game that we started back in 2015 might have been my first official game I worked on.
Yeah, back then it was you didn't fly. You were running on a table and you jumped over noodles.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this weird
Because usually you lock them and they stay straight.
song that would like play faster and faster, and the tempo just kept going faster and faster.
Yeah, but me and Brad, we concepted an entire game, but we didn't make anything for it. I just like made artwork. It was technically like a school project he was doing, but I helped him like come up with it and like did a bunch of artwork for each level or whatever. And then I don't know. I did a bunch of like little games for like an online course back around that same time. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
probably got.
I think that original meatball game was the first game. So it's kind of cool that that's our first mini game for Sprint Conference.
Finally got the demo out of here, and we'll put it on WebGL or something.
For what?
Or we'll look into WebGL or something to like actually.
Oh, yeah.
use it for,
Yeah, I downloaded or imported the Unity WebGL because I was actually curious about that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know if
WebGL
it's-
you can do 3D stuff in it. It uses. We shouldn't have the issue that Flash had because of I think they fixed that security issue.
Yeah, I've been looking into doing more with the WebGL stuff. That's been kind of my personal learning journey the last couple of weeks. Has been kind of looking into that and looking into more browser application type stuff, more on the enterprise side of things.
Well, it's a cool idea, even if you're not trying to start your own studio. Like, if you want to just get a job in the industry, you could make a bunch of little projects and then put them all up on a website as your portfolio. So if it's browser based, then they can immediately play your game. They don't have to go through zip files or check out my itch page or anything like that.
Yeah, and if you're doing something like that, you want to try to test it in different browsers. You don't want to have someone like you're trying to show it off and they're using a different browser than you did, and it's worth spending a little time debugging some of that.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering if WebGL, how it's different from Wasm, but it looks like it's a little different. There's OpenGL, WebGL, a few different ways.
It might also be a cool way to show off or do a pitch of a game. It could be kind of cool to make just a little window of each system in the game that you want to show off. So maybe if you have like some sort of unique animation style or game mechanic, you can do like literally like a small scene where it's just focusing on like this one aspect. So even like how I have the Discord panel shows up with us three, like you could have just like panels next to each other of like these different game mechanics all at once. Although I think with Unity it makes it its own screen, so that might not work. But I feel like there could be some cool creative ways you could do that.
Yeah, one thing I'd caution against is like trying to do too many different platforms. Like for our case, if we want to do that, like for a live dev stream or something, it might make
Well,
sense.
I'm saying specifically if you're trying to put together like a pitch deck for like a publisher and you want to show like this is my idea, like visually here it is, yes or no, basically.
Yeah, it depends how fast you can operate in, or how different like putting that demo is together, like from your game, because maybe your code is totally incompatible.
Well, I'm saying before you even start the game. Like this is just like a
Oh,
vertical
yeah,
slice, but broken down into different parts.
Yeah, you could do it that way. That's one way. I was looking
Hey,
for.
what I don't know how I'd feel about actually coding and creating a game on a live stream podcast. I'd get so nervous about that. 'Cause I'm the
Yeah,
kind of person, I get so distracted so easily. Like, I'll be sitting there, I'll do, you know, 10 minutes worth of work, and then all of a sudden I'm distracted, and I'm like, oh man, you hear about uh, such and such, gotta, whatever.
Yeah, such and
And
such got whatever. That happens to me all the
yeah,
time. No,
I
yeah,
was
we've
gonna,
talked about that too.
yeah,
yeah, I'm bad at
like,
it. I can't get anything done with like during the stream, like while there's talking.
yeah,
So,
like that's what I'm saying. Like trying to
like,
hold a conversation and get stuff done, I could not do that.
yeah. So I
I
have to
am,
either like talk, and then like while we're doing stuff like setting up, like I can set up the repo and stuff like that, and then like code in between episodes, basically.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's
that's
just,
kind of how I am with it.
yeah, for me, there's too much, you know, uh, or the code I did right during that one stream, like I was putting it in the wrong place and stuff. I had to go back and fix it anyways. And
Yeah, and that's kind of why I separated the streams a little bit. So we have Indie Game Devs, which is the podcast, and then Spurdunky and Friends Makes Games is the more casual, um, like we're making a game in the background sort of thing. And a big reason is editing as well. Here, once again.
Yeah, I can't even listen to music half the time when I'm like actually doing programming. If I'm doing like level design or modeling, I can throw on some music, but if I'm actually sitting down and programming, I can't even listen to music. I can listen to some like background noise type stuff, but I can't sit down and rock out like I normally do.
Yeah, I
Once I'm
agree with that.
and once I'm done with like the actual hello
Yeah,
visual
and
guest
there's
appearance.
something to be said about like sometimes you want like something in the background, and then you'll spend too much time figuring out what you want in the background before you even start working.
Oh, it's the can't eat my food without having a Netflix show on. But now
Yeah.
my food's cold because I spent 30 minutes, searching through Netflix to try to eat that.
Yeah.
so it looks like Unreal Engine 5 can do HTML5 and WebGL 2. So you could do like yours in Unreal or Unity. I don't know about Godot. Looks like there's several ways that you could get something on WebGL or Wasm or OpenGL.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. I'm sure there's a way, even if there's not a way. You know what I mean? Well, we are at an hour and 12 minutes, and this didn't end up being the big finale thing that I wanted, but I appreciate you guys showing up, and
Of course.
Yeah, we'll
basically doing
reschedule. We'll
part
hype
2.
it up.
Oh yeah, and I'll be in my new place the next time I stream, and we're excited to move. It's just been a little stressful, but
Always is.
oh yeah. But what's
John,
great
did you-
is we're just moving down the street.
Also, it's not too far.
Yeah, no. Well,
John, did you have any website or Twitter or anything that you're trying to build up? Anything that you're trying to?
Yeah, so we got our company Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook set up earlier today. I sent the links over. Here's Spurdunky. Stop eating my thing. Kittens. Gotta love them. So you can find me and the company at Blondie Whales on YouTube and Twitter, Facebook, Blondie Whales Games. We are going to be posting a lot of our updates on there. We're probably going to be posting a weekly update featuring either some behind the scenes kind of update or some concept art or work in progress art as we go along. So check those out. I've sent the links over so we can put those in the description there. And come say hi. We also have the links to our company Discord in the last episode. And we're always happy to have folks come in, hang out, and come talk to us. As we get further along in development, obviously we'll have more showcase nights where we'll be showing off some gameplay or some different systems and mechanics as we go along. So definitely keep an eye out on those and come talk to us, come chat. Open communication with our community and with our audience is a huge thing for us. We want to be right there with folks, talking to them as we go along.
Yeah, and you can, I don't know if you saw in our Discord, there's a promote yourself or promote your stuff page. Whenever you have any kind of updates you want to share with our community too, you can totally put them there.
Absolutely.
And to anyone watching, there is a Discord for Spelunky and Friends if you're interested. We're mainly developers, but if you're just interested in like behind the scenes of indie games, then you can totally come hang out. And this has been another Spelunky and Friends. I'm Spelunky, these are my friends. Thank you guys for showing up. It means a lot. And check out our itch page. And I'm sure in one of the descriptions of our videos right now you could find our Discord. But if you're watching this at a later date, it'll already be there. Any last things you guys want to say?
I think that about does it from my end.
Alright. Well, I gotta go wake up the toddler and do some more preparations for moving.
Alrighty.
Right on. Well, it's been nice talking to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Yep. Catch you guys later.
Take it easy.
Alright, is live over?
Sort of.